What's up? What's up?
What's up? So, Duncan, you won the MegaCast contest for the Facebook contest, and we also have Dan Spielvogel that won the Sports Me contest. So, we're talking about the World Cup champion and who is the shocker of this year's World Cup. So, who wants to go first?
Is it still going? It looks like it froze. We good?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll go first. So, my life showing me a poor connection.
What's up, guys?
What's up, Quinn?
Hey, Quinn. You guys see me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah, I think so. One sec. Okay, wait. Let me just make sure of my connection. I think it should be working. I hope. I'll find out.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, I'll just disconnect, reconnect, do what I did last time. So, we'll see how it goes. So, if I look like frozen, that's, I don't know what that is. Well, actually, I guess you guys know, but, so hopefully it works out.
All right, I got this whole thing recording right now, so we're good.
All right.
So, Duncan, you want to go first as a Facebook contest?
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with going first.
Go ahead.
So, I think as far as when we're looking at, basically who's looking to win now, I know originally my original take ended up playing today, which was England. But I think when we look at as far as, a lot of us, we kind of picked between the two teams that play today as far as being the champs, one way or another. I think it's two games that really could have gone either way, especially when we looked at the matchups. I hate to be that guy who picks the wrong pick and then tries to blame the refs or anything like that. You know what I mean? But I think if we're looking at like the overtime, there's a lot of plays that were questionable. Could have been some set pieces for England, which is where they've scored a lot of their goals as far as in this year's World Cup. But I think when we're looking at who's going to be the champion now between France and Croatia, I really think we're looking at whose dominance is going to be more. Is it going to be the experience of Croatia versus the energy and basically the youth of France? And I think that when we look at it, for the most part, most of our games this year, it's been on who can apply the most pressure on the top sides and, who can get the most offensive push, which is why at this point I think it's going to be hard to vote against France. I think that they're the team who you've got to give the favorites to. I mean, even the line gives the favorite to the French team just by a little bit. I think that one thing that will be interesting to see is with Croatia's passive game that they do play, they very rarely make mistakes. They have a good counter game, but I think just the speed and the youth that the French team has got to make them the favorite, and they're going to be who ends up coming out on top as far as that game goes.
Mm-hmm. Dan, you want to go next as the other?
Yeah, sure. I originally picked Belgium. They won the third place game today, so my pick was wrong at first. But now, with the teams that are left, France and Croatia, I'm kind of pulling for Croatia. They're kind of put the small countries on the map for the World Cup. Usually, it's a World Cup powerhouse. It's usually a big country like France and Germany and Italy, Argentina, Spain, some countries like that usually have won it the last few World Cups. So it would be good to see a change and see a smaller country come out on top. I have Croatia winning 1-0 because the last 4 World Cups have been a 1-0 final score. So I think that streak will continue. But I have to give Croatia the edge due to their experience. And usually this French team usually shows inconsistency at times. But they've been playing really good soccer. And I think their youth and inexperience will cost them in the end. I'm going with Croatia. They're going to do it one more time.
Yeah. For me, I'm going with France 1-0. Like the streak for the point total stays alive. But 4 of the 6 matches for the French team this year, they've allowed 0 goals. Their goalie, Hugo Lloris, is one of the best in this World Cup. And I look at that 19-year-old kid, and he's so fast, and Croatia has a lot of bigger guys, slower, more older guys, that I'm just not sure if their speed is up to it to play against France's speed. And I just look at who France has played so far, and I really like it, you know. They were able to squeak one by versus Argentina, and then they beat Belgium, who won the third-place game today. And I just feel like they've had a tougher road than Croatia. Croatia's played good teams, but I just see what France has played. They've been playing like these elite, high-powered teams in this year's World Cup. So I'm going France 1-0.
Not yet, Mom.
We good there, Dan?
Mom said dinner's ready, but I'll hold off on it. It's all good. It's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Derek, you got it.
Priority.
Carry on, guys.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go and say that France wins 1-0. And the reason I believe that is because I think France has the best player in the game in Kylian Mbappe, at least in this final game. I think they've also, because obviously Ronaldo, Messi, we know that they're still ahead. But as far as France and Croatia go, I think Mbappe is the best player overall on the pitch, basically. So justification there. Since I saw like the what, and then it's like, context, clarification, all that good stuff. And then I also think they've actually had one of the best players in this World Cup in Antoine Griezmann. I don't exactly know how you pronounce his name off the top of my head, but he's been performing lights out this World Cup. He's had quite a few goals. He's helped France in some good spots. He's been arguably their best player in this tournament right now. And obviously, as we said, the goaltending was very impressive for France. And honestly, it feels like they have the edge in almost every category on the field. They have a better... Okay, all right. So they have the better goaltender. I think they have just the better overall team. And I think their manager, Didier Deschamps, has already won a World Cup already. So I think that experience is going to help France go over the top. And obviously, the experience of Croatia, and as well as the balanced style they play, I don't think that can't be taken into account, or at least that shouldn't be out of the equation. So it should be a tough fight, but I think that the World Cup experience of Deschamps, as well as just the overall energy and talent of that France team, is going to be enough to pull them through to a victory.
Nice. Yeah, so I'm picking Croatia. I think that obviously, the Vegas line is pretty close. No one favorite team. I mean, obviously France is favored by a little bit, but not enough that it would make you get a huge winning betting on Croatia. But I look at Croatia's experience, and they play so cohesively, and they're consistent. And that's one of the main things, is that when I look at France, I don't buy the argument that you go with the best player on the team, that team has the better chance. I mean, we look at what's happened with Messi, we look at what's happened with Ronaldo and their teams, and it just shows that this is a team sport. Like, one player can only do so much. I mean, it's not even like basketball where one player has a much bigger impact on the game. Like, you really need familiarity with your teammates, and you need to have that kind of experience. So I value experience a little bit more in soccer than I do in maybe other sports. But Duncan, I remember you saying that you don't want to be the one talking about refs with the England game and how there's some bad calls, but. Look, I mean, one could argue that the England only got that far because they had a lot of help from the refs in previous matches. So, so maybe they didn't have that great help with refs in their last game, but in previous soccer games, I mean, they were on the beneficiary when it came to the officials and the officiating. But this is obviously going to be a close one. I have Croatia winning 2-1. I think it's going to be 1-1 the entire time, and at the very end, the last 2 minutes of the game, I think Croatia will squeak one in. And yeah, kind of like what Dan said, it's not just my prediction. It's kind of what I'm hoping for too. I'd like to see a smaller country win. To me, it's kind of boring seeing France and Germany and Brazil and all these like big countries always being the favorite. I like a small country like Croatia making some noise. It's bringing a lot of. I'm sure it's helping out with tourism. I'm sure it's helping out with their economy. I would really like to see a small country make some noise on the biggest stage in the world. So, yeah, I have to parse that out. Like, I do have a bias because I want them to win. But I also think this is a close one. Like, France is obviously more talented from my perspective, but Croatia is more cohesive. They play like a team, and if they can keep that up, I think they have a good shot at winning.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see, like, if the – one thing I'm going to be interested to see is if all the time that Croatia has put on the legs with so many games that have gone into extra time, if that's going to be something that plays a factor with not only the youth of France, but the fact that France hasn't really had to play that extra time. Yeah. I mean, they are professionals at the end of the day, so I'm sure they'll be all right. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays a factor, or if it plays a factor at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, and to be fair, that World Cup trophy is cursed, given that 4 of the last 5 winners, at least from the last research I did, they ended up not making it even to the qualifying stage.
Yeah.
And I think 3 of those 4 ended up being last place. So maybe Croatia might not be better off getting it this year. And then France goes this year, and then they just completely bomb next time it comes around. So
no, I don't buy Chris's.
Yeah, obviously. I mean,
I'd rather win a championship than just keep on finishing second,
Yeah, I mean, obviously Croatia's time's probably going to come at some point, especially if they continue at the rate they're at. It's going to be their time at some point. Yeah. If it's not this year, then it'll be at some point later on. I think Croatia's definitely become a serious contender as far as this World Cup's going, so I think they're going to be at that level for a little while.
Yeah. So should we
I think you're probably going to see that with both these teams, actually. It's going to be interesting to see them for the next couple of years. I mean, France got the second youngest team in the World Cup. So.
Yeah,
that's true.
I think Croatia has a lot of, age to them that I'm not sure about, the possibility of the younger people coming into Croatia's soccer team in the next few years. But they have a pretty old team right now. I think there was one guy, I think their best player is 34 or something, which is pretty old in soccer terms.
Yeah. I mean, athletes they keep extending the length of their prime every year. I mean, we look at guys like LeBron James, and we look at Roger Federer and Serena Williams, all these people that are in their mid-30s that are still dominating their sport.
Tom Brady even.
Tom Brady. I mean, Aaron Rodgers isn't young. I mean, he's in his 30s too. So we see a lot of guys who are still doing well. I mean, Frank Gore, the running back position.
Yeah.
I think he posted over 1,000 yards last year at 33.
Yeah.
So I mean, modern athletes are totally different than the athletes of the 90s and 80s. But I mean, obviously the youth of France is going to play a factor. And the amount of minutes, as Duncan said, that Croatia played, that takes a toll on your stamina. And if you can't hold up till the end, France is going to exploit that.
And I believe that they made it to penalty kicks versus Denmark too, the match before England. Mm-hmm. So they're having long games right now. So
it's going to be fun. I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to a bar, get some drinks with some friends. Just really, really, really enjoy the World Cup. I mean, these last 3 or 4 rounds have been extremely exciting.
Yeah, I think all of the elimination games, just in general, I think we've seen a lot of parity as far as with the teams, which is awesome to see. Usually, in the past years, it's been I can see it when we break down kind of we've talked about tiers in other sports. Usually it's just the tier 1 teams, the legacy teams are the ones that we expect to win. And it's kind of gotten to the point now where it's really it's that almost any given Sunday field where it depends on who's playing better at that time, which is going to be awesome to see moving forward in the future cups.
And how ironic was it when Neymar was saying how that Ronaldo and Messi were talking too much, and that's why they went out. And then the next game he loses. Like, it just seemed like he was begging for it. Oh, was he talking about Mexico?
Yeah.
He said that about.
So he's talking about Mexico.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was a player or manager, but then he said, "Well, now he's gone too."
I mean, but yeah, the irony is still there. Yeah, just saying that they talk too much, and then as soon as he it's so ironic because he's talking while saying it, and then he's gone, so he's proving his own point. Like, stay away from the media when you're in the tournament.
Obviously, he's not wrong. Obviously, he isn't wrong. Just maybe not in the context he was hoping for.
Duncan, that Neymar challenge video that you sent, I was dying. That was so funny.
Oh my, that was hilarious. I saw it. I watched it a couple times.
Yeah, me too. That was funny.
No, I love that. We got to do that at some point.
I'd be down for that.
Should we talk about shockers now? Like, what's the biggest surprise this year's World Cup?
Yeah.
All right.
Go for it.
Duncan, you
Sure.
want?
I was gonna say I'll take the lead because I took the first as far as with the champs. I know a lot of people there's kind of talking about surprise as far as no South American teams, which was definitely something I think heading into this year. I mean, Uruguay and Brazil both looked like that they're going to be really good. But for me, it was someone that I didn't really know much about heading into the World Cup. I don't think really anybody did. Was just the fact that not only did Iceland qualified, but they actually had a pretty decent performance. I mean, they drew Argentina in their first game.
Yeah.
I think you were probably looking at a little bit of maybe some hangover when they played Nigeria, not to mention the fact that Nigeria was the youngest team that was in this year's World Cup. They kind of put some running on them. And it took Croatia till, I think it's like the 90th or 91st minute to put in the decisive goal against them. Yeah. Iceland isn't one of the teams that when you look at them, they're not like stacked with a whole bunch of professional soccer players. I mean, I think they have like 4 or 5 farmers on their team. I think their coach is like a teacher part-time or something like that. Just seeing them put that together and being the smallest nation to qualify, I mean, just to put it into perspective, here in the States, we have 56 cities with, a bigger population than Iceland. And they were able to find, a pretty talented roster to be able to not only qualify and had a pretty decent performance as far as like qualifying for the World Cup, but even got into a pretty stacked division when you figure they played both Argentina and Croatia and had pretty good performances against them. So
that first one against Argentina was great. That was a great match.
Yeah. And then Croatia too, like they brought it down to the wire, which we've seen what Croatia is able to do.
One of my shockers, at least, and I know this is going to be probably the most obvious one, but is that the United States didn't even qualify. Like, and how boring is that for us, American fans? Is that now we have to root for other teams that we don't have a true connection to.
Yeah.
And I could see how we didn't, but I also feel like if you're a business, right, and you want to maximize viewership, like you have to do it. You have to add the United States and just see if they can make some noise. So we'll see what happens in 4 years, but I mean, we really have to get our act together. I mean, this is embarrassing when Iceland qualifies and we don't.
Yeah, something needs to happen, clearly, because, I mean, everyone was on Jurgen Klinsmann the whole time saying, if you're not going to help us get better, especially given that we are one of the biggest countries in the world, we have one of the better programs in the world. Like, we should be qualifying for the World Cup every year, but not necessarily winning it. But if we aren't going to take that next step, then we should find someone who can. We do that, and we end up not qualifying the first year. I think we ended up losing to Panama, who was horrible this World Cup, if I remember right.
Oh, yeah.
So I just find that kind of laughable. It's clear that, like, something needs to change there. And it's kind of like similar to what Argentina is going through in a way now, because I know there was a rift growing between that team and their manager. And obviously, I'm sure they weren't performing up to the standard they're used to. So now it's become a moment of, what can we do to repair all this? Because some players probably won't return. The manager obviously is going to be under fire a little bit. So now they're going to have to try and figure all of that out. And I think that's what the U.S. is going to have to do as well. They're going to have to make personnel decisions, going to have to figure out which players are good, which players should go, which players shouldn't. They need to make decisions because it's clear that what we're doing now isn't working.
Yeah.
It seems like Americans just don't even find soccer that entertaining for the most part. Like we just don't see, like, how much MLS do you guys watch?
Zero.
Zero.
Yeah,
Like,
not much. Yeah, if it's like maybe if it's after an event, but otherwise I'm not like tuning in to watch an MLS event. Yeah.
Like, is it Landon Donovan still in the league? You know, like, no.
Like, NBA, NFL are dominating, and then we have baseball and hockey right in the rear view.
Yeah.
But soccer is so far behind, and a lot of it has to do with where the money's at, but a lot of it's too just like the culture. Like, we have a football culture, we don't have a football culture. You know, we just don't value that. The demographics don't support it. The programs, like the amount of basketball camps and programs there are compared to the soccer camps in America are just, it's outrageous. I mean, it's staggering.
And I know, like, nations in, like, South America, like Brazil and Argentina, like, you get those kids down for soccer early on, like, they just play soccer and you get them integrated into that world of soccer because it's probably, honestly, the cheapest sport as well, like, for those, other countries. Like, they don't have to buy as much equipment besides
football equipment is extremely extremely expensive. But with soccer, you could be in a poor village, you know, and a third world country, and all you really need is a ball. And you can practice on your foot skills and all that kind of stuff. So I could see that argument being made. But it's such a popular sport worldwide, and there is so much money involved in it worldwide. We look at how much Ronaldo and Messi actually make compared to other athletes, and they're on top, right? They make more than LeBron and Westbrook and all those guys. So the money is there. It just needs to figure out its way to get into America, and the fans need to figure out how can they watch it. You know, how can they get into it? I think the video game FIFA has done a lot, actually, for American culture for soccer. Because
I'd agree with that.
I wasn't a fan of watching soccer at all until college when I started playing FIFA. And then I got into watching soccer. I'm like, okay, I now understand it more. Like, I appreciate a game even if it ends 1-0. You know? Like, I can still find entertainment out of it. But for a lot of people, especially in this new generation, like, our attention spans aren't big enough, and we want scoring. We want fast scoring. We want big plays. And in soccer, it's a lot of back and forth. So you have to really appreciate the subtle nuances of the game, which is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I was actually talking to Brian, who's, you know, in the MegaCast group, but, you know, I also wonder if part of the reason that we don't see a lot of, like, youth getting into soccer as far as, you know, in America is, like, you kind of have to look at, I guess you can say that the whole mentality behind it. You can be great in basketball, and if you're a stud, you're going to stand out amongst everyone else, right? You're going to be putting up, you know, 25, 30, 40 points. You're going to be doing, you're Jaren Jackson doing, like, you know, 2, 3, 4 blocks a game. There's something that stands out, whereas you can be great at soccer. And, I mean, like, Harry Kane's one of the most dominant scorers, but after, like, he got out of the group play, he wasn't putting the ball in the net, really, other than his one PK, right? It's not something you can walk away from the game and, like, give yourself that pat on the back and go, oh, well, at least I scored my, you know, 15, 20 points. Right. You can go games on end without having that, you know, success and achievement, almost kind of like the same way in baseball. You know, you're successful if you're able to hit it 3 out of 10 times, but you're still at least hitting it 3 out of 10 times compared to, you know, 1 goal every couple games.
Yeah. Also,
Ronaldo's
with, like,
the only
hockey.
one really has those goals.
Yeah. It's kind of the same with hockey, you know, like, these star players aren't going to score a goal every game. They're not going to have an assist every game. And then there's the small name players that might take a goal and make a goal instead of, like, your star player. There's more players involved and kind of takes away from people actually seeing, like, the star players going crazy, like, and taking over the game.
Yeah. hockey just captures our attention better because we have fights and it's so.
Yeah, you've got the big hits.
I
and
mean,
you got the stuff
those
like that.
athletes are just. I mean, the fact that they do it all on skates is just mind blowing. I mean,
I couldn't even skate with a chair. Like, I was falling with a chair. I don't even know how you can skate with a, and skate that fast and, like, shoot and, like, be like, goal, and just, like, hip check, and I don't even understand how you can do that. Like,
and, you know, soccer kind of goes against the whole, like, in football and basketball, we appreciate a tough mentality, and we really get on guys like LeBron James and stuff when they flop, you know, or draw charges that are just kind of like Marcus Smart and stuff like that. And that bugs fans. And we see that so much in soccer. Like, the amount of acting that goes on doesn't really seem to be cohesive with what Americans value in sports, which is that grit, you know, that, like, I'm going to get hit, but I'm not even going to let anyone, like, notice that it bugs me. Like, in soccer, you have to let them know, or else the refs won't give them a yellow card. So, yeah, it's tough. I'm excited that the World Cup is here. I'm still bummed that America never made it. But you know, I'm glad Croatia's in the finals.
Yeah,
I'm happy about that. They're proving a lot.
I mean, hey, Russia gives us hope for 2026, the host country, right? We don't have to be that great. We can still have a good performance in the cup because we're playing at home.
That's
so.
true.
Yeah, speaking of Russia, that was my surprise.
Saudi Arabia go our way.
Wait, how would it be 2026? Wouldn't it be 2024?
No, 2026.
No, 2026 every 4 years.
Yeah.
Why do I think it's 2016 right now?
I have deep question in my math, and I'm like, look, man, right?
I never of, like, elections and stuff.
Yeah, guys, I've never said who my surprise was.
Neither did Derek and me, so go ahead, Sauce Boss.
My surprise was Russia, the host country, actually. They actually weren't even supposed to make it out of group stage because we knew Uruguay was going to win the group because they were the most talented team out of those 4 teams. And we knew Saudi Arabia was terrible, so we knew that Russia would probably beat them. So, but the toss-up game was Russia and Egypt because Egypt probably had the best player in that group, Mo Salah. And what they did after Egypt scored quickly, Russia rolled off 3 straight, and won that game pretty convincingly. So they advanced into the round of 16, and they played a very good Spain team who was probably one of the World Cup favorites to win this tournament. And they beat them in penalty kicks, which was very impressive of how they did. And then they took Croatia to PKs also in the quarterfinal. That was the first they made it as an independent country. That was the first they made it since they were the Soviet Union. And it was just how impressive that they were. They showed a lot of heart. They got the crowd behind them, and I was very proud of this Russian team. And I thought they could have beaten Croatia too, but unfortunately, all Cinderella runs come to an end at some point. So, yeah, Russia was my biggest surprise.
Yeah.
Especially when you're looking at a team that had either lost or drawn its last 7 games heading into the Cup. I would definitely agree that no one really thought much of what they were going to do in the Cup, so they definitely turned some heads the whole way through. So,
home crowd favorites.
For me, my biggest surprise has to be Germany. I know, like what Derek said, like the last 4 World Cup champions didn't even make it out of the group stage, but everyone was talking like Germany was a favorite. I think they had the best odds. They were a team that just constantly was a top power every single World Cup. I think they made the semifinals the World Cup before they won it. They were just a team that was the most consistent, and it was just kind of shocking that they couldn't even make it out of their group. So that's my surprise. I just feel like it was just shocking, you know? Like, who expected Germany to lose that early?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely.
They're great athletes.
Yeah.
They're huge.
Absolutely, yeah.
Derek,
right.
What's your biggest?
So, obviously, Russia was impressive. We know that much. But I'm actually very surprised by how Japan did this World Cup.
Oh, yeah.
When you look at Russia, I think what you have to look at is, they had that slow streak coming in, but at the same time, they also drew arguably the weakest group in the World Cup. Obviously, we know Uruguay was going to make it. They were the top dog, unquestioned. It seems that was going to go that way. But then after that, you had Saudi Arabia, which I think was actually lower in the rankings than Russia. And then you had Egypt that had Mohamed Salah, not really all that much after it. So I think when you look at things, Russia making, and some people had Russia making it. No one was expecting Japan to make it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously FIFA's seeding this year didn't really have a group of depth. But I think Group H, which Japan was in, was actually one of the more exciting ones to watch because you had Colombia, Poland, Senegal, and Japan. And all four of them were pretty exciting. But everyone thought Colombia was going to be one of the teams that made it. And most people thought Poland was going to be the other team. And then you had others that said Senegal was. No one really gave Japan much of a shot. They were more expecting them to finish last in the group. But in the end, they beat Senegal. They beat Poland out and got to the knockout stages. And then they gave Belgium one hell of a fight.
Yeah.
So I think when you look at, and I had Belgium actually winning the whole thing before this tournament even started. So for Japan to do that, especially for a team that wasn't expected to even be there, that's very impressive to me. So I was very impressed with how I think it was the Blue Samurai they were called. I think that was the name that was given to them. Like England's the Free Lions. I know that how every team has that. So I was very impressed with how they operated. I'm actually very happy that happened.
Yeah.
You know, when I saw a video clip of, you know, it's not just the Japanese players, but the Japanese fans. I saw some clips of them, how they would clean up the stadium after the game. They would all have this trash bag, and they would all be going around and making sure that all the trash everywhere was picked up. And that was just like, you don't see that in American sports. You don't see that at stadiums or even movie theaters or events like that. And to see all their fans like all working together to make sure that they left the place just as nice as they came into it, you know, it was one of those like human moments, you know, like you're just like really happy that like this exists, that this culture exists, that hopefully that it spreads, that we can like maybe, you know. And I see some nasty comments like, oh, you're doing the cleaners' jobs and stuff like that. It's like, no, dude, they're just like helping. They're just like helping out. Like it takes like an extra 5 minutes of their time. They're just making sure that the area around them is nice and clean and the trash is picked up. I thought that was pretty cool. You know, it gave me. I don't know much about Japanese culture. I wish I did, but it definitely gave me a good impression of their fan base and everything.
Respectable, you know?
Yeah, from what I've gathered about Japanese culture, at least from what I think I understand, I know that respect is a big part of that. I know that's a central pillar of the Japanese culture and how they are as a people. So I think that's just part of that. That's just a cultural thing, just a way to respect their host. They understand that Russia's hosting this, they're a team that's going in, but that doesn't mean that they should not show respect to the host. So I believe that's kind of what the whole deal with that is.
I mean, if your friend ever invited you over and like you ate food, like you would clean yourself up, you know? But as soon as we go to an event, we have this like entitlement comes in. It's like, oh, cleaners will do it, like whatever. But I really liked seeing that. That was kind of cool. It was a good moment.
Yeah.
All right.
World Cup. When's the finals again? What's
tomorrow?
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow at 11 Eastern.
Okay. So I'm wondering how much of that is going to conflict with Wimbledon finals.
Ooh. Isn't Djokovic?
Just because I know that American, it hasn't been a very good like network, or it hasn't been very good ratings on the American side for FIFA, anyways. So I would imagine, since it's probably most of your diehards that are watching FIFA, for the most part, it's going to kind of be the same as far as like your tennis fans. You know, it's going to be more of your strict tennis fans are going to be watching that. I will be interested to see if we see a dip one way or another, though.
Yeah, I would have been interested if England actually made it to the finals, because like Wimbledon's in England. I would have been interested in like seeing how that culture would be, what would happen, like, if your home country's in the World Cup final and then you got this huge event in Wimbledon in your country.
Yeah.
I would have been interested if that would have happened, you know? Like.
Yeah, I just looked it up, and Wimbledon's tomorrow is at 9 a.m., so we'll see how that works out.
Yeah.
Well, matches can last 6 hours like Isner's match.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, my God.
Oh yeah.
I feel
it's
bad for
interesting.
those athletes, so, like, Isner and Anderson, because, like, that has to be exhausting just going
They
back
might
and
change the
forth.
rules because of matches like that. And Duncan, this kind of goes back to your point. You were saying how Croatia might not have the legs, you know, since they've been going into extra time so often. You know, we saw this huge long match between Kevin Anderson and Federer, and we think, okay, how is he going to come back and play Isner? And then he goes into this extremely long match with Isner and still wins. So these athletes are I mean, they are just a new animal. Like, we have not seen athletes with this kind of stamina and in forever. So this is really cool to watch how modern medicine, modern science, new training skills, training techniques are making these athletes last longer and longer, perform at such a high level.
Are you guys surprised, like, of the final Djokovic versus Anderson?
A little bit.
You know, Anderson made the finals in the U.S. Open in 2017, but he's always hovered around that 7 through 10 spot.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's a big guy. He's 6'8", so it's tough for those big guys to always, you know, to move as much. But he's playing really well. Djokovic to win against Nadal was huge. I mean, he seems like he's back and he's playing with a ton of confidence.
Yeah.
It's hard to root against or to pick someone other than Djokovic to win this, but Kevin Anderson's got a shot. He's been playing out of his mind.
I'm shocked about Anderson because, like, Federer had to be, like, a clear-cut favorite just because of how he plays in Wimbledon. It's like the French Open for Nadal, honestly.
I mean, Federer had match point.
Yeah.
He was up 2 sets to love.
Yeah.
And then he lost the next 3 sets because Anderson just dug deep. I mean, that was just... I mean, I'm such a Federer fan, so I was a little upset, but as a tennis fan, I was just so impressed. That was a great match.
Like, you can't say anything, but he earned it. Like, he just played lights out. And then I was kind of surprised, like, he beat Isner. I know he was ranked better than Isner. I just had a feeling Isner was going to win, but...
I mean, what was it, 26-24 in the 5th set? Like, that is just, I mean, both these guys are just serving lights out. It's insane. It's funny how we're talking about soccer and tennis. Like, they're not huge in America, but these are, like, the biggest world sports. Like,
it's kind of like golf. Like, those 3 sports, like, you see international stars all over the place are the 3 biggest sports, honestly. Like, for football... You don't see anyone, like, in international, really.
Yeah, there's, like, the Canadian Football League.
Yeah.
And then I know that in other countries, rugby kind of takes over that...
the brutal guys,
Yeah.
With no
helmets.
I mean,
obviously, it's a different game, but you kind of get a similar type of entertainment value from it. But, I mean... It's pretty cool. I think that both soccer and tennis don't get enough talking points for media analysts and American society. So I think it's good that we're doing some justice to these entertaining sports that are
absolutely.
Should we?
And I'd be remorse not to talk about Serena Williams. I mean, come on, like the fact that she gave birth, and I mean, she gave birth in September of 2017. She had some horrible complications. She was, like, really unhealthy.
Her bounce back story is amazing.
Yeah, and the fact that she went to a finals and she played Angelique Kerber, who was playing out of her mind. Like, she was playing so well. She's a lefty. She gives, lefties give righties so much trouble with their spin and everything. And the fact that, I mean, Serena had such a good run. I mean, I honestly think she's the greatest female athlete in the history of sports. Yeah. Like, I can't think of a better athlete Like,
Yeah.
she's just so dominant. She represents America amazingly. I mean, American tennis has been down for so long. We haven't had someone really. I mean, even Andy Roddick only won one Grand Slam. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's good that we have someone who's pulling down tennis for us. But yeah, what a run! What a run for her.
Honestly, I agree. Like, she's
cool.
the best female athlete ever. She might even be the best athlete ever, honestly. How dominant she is in the sport. Like, before
their sport.
Yeah, before
Because
her.
obviously you take LeBron James over Serena Williams in like
Yeah.
an athletic competition, but like relative to their sport,
Yeah,
I totally
like,
get that. Yeah.
You won't pick LeBron to win everything, you know? Like, he's not going to win the MVP every year. He's not going to win the NBA Finals every year. But Serena Williams, if you got to bet on someone, you got to bet her. Like, even when she's down, like, this year, she was able to still make it deep into Wimbledon, even though she's been struggling with.
It was her 4th tournament all year.
Yeah.
Insane. The fact that she can serve a tennis ball over 120 miles an hour being only 5'8", 5'9", is insane. Like, to be able to generate that kind of power at that height just shows how strong she really is. I mean, you really have to be tall. Like, I'm 6 foot. The fastest I've ever served a ball is 108.
Jeez,
like,
that's still pretty fast. I mean,
played college tennis. What's the fastest I ever served at clocked? She's 5'8", like, and serves it over 120, which is just unreal. Like, no one else even comes close. The average speed serve in women's tennis is about 103, 104. So, I mean, she's just light years above them. She was serving them 116 today, a year after giving birth. Like, how do you do that? Like, it makes no sense.
And she's getting up there in age. I think she's like 30-something, right?
Like 7.
Yeah. So when you look at these women tennis stars, they're like early 20s, even like 19 or something. Like, they should be more physically inclined than her, especially since she gave birth. Like, that should honestly make her less physically inclined. But let's be serious. She was probably the most physically inclined out of anyone except Kerber today.
Yeah, I mean, Kerber just played so well. She was playing with so much confidence. I was watching this match this morning, and she just, like, she wasn't letting anything go. She was moving forward on everything. She wasn't hesitating at all. It was 100% or nothing. She just had to bet on herself, and she did well. I mean, the confidence is everything in tennis. Like, it is so mental.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So, should we talk about next week's topic, which is MLB All-Star snubs and surprises?
Let's get to it.
Yeah.
So, who wants to start with the snub/surprises for the All-Star game?
You got it.
I got it. Well, before James Paxton's injury, I felt like he was snubbed. You see that he threw a no-hitter this year. He's been having 10-plus strikeouts per game a bunch of the time, but he's on the 10-day DL now, so I guess I can't really say he's a snub. But, like, I'll go with, like, a guy Brandon Crotchett's been saying, Blake Snell. This guy's been one of the best pitchers in the AL, even in the whole MLB. Like, for him to be snubbed like this, and J.A. Happ getting in and stuff, it just doesn't make sense. But if I go with a guy not being a pitcher, I would pick probably Xander Bogaerts even. I know shortstop's probably one of the strongest positions this year in the All-Star game, but this guy is just so good and been consistent for the Red Sox this year. So I feel like those are my two snubs. For surprises, Bryce Harper, guys. This guy's averaging
Hey.
like 230. Like, he's a great player. He is. And his name gets out there because he's probably one of the best baseball players out here right now. But how he's playing this year, I just don't see how he's the best. He's nowhere close to some of these other baseball players, in my opinion, this year. Even Trea Turner, I think, could have gotten in. I know, like, his position is different, but Trea Turner's been the better Washington Nationals this year. So, I'll say Bryce Harper as a surprise.
Yeah. For my snub, I'm going to go with Anthony Rendon. And, it's a little biased because I'm a Nats fan, but honestly, I think he's been in the MVP conversation, like, every year for the past, like, 3 years. He was out for 3 weeks this year with an injury, and obviously the third base position is just stacked. So I understand why he didn't make it, but honestly, like, he's so good. I would rather have him in there than Bryce Harper, to be honest with. I mean, obviously they play different positions, but I guess Bryce Harper could be one of my surprises. Although it's not that surprising when you realize that the All-Star game is in DC. Like, you want people to come in. Like, you want people to see their star, and DC's star is Bryce Harper when it comes to baseball. Like, he's our best player. He's having a little bit of a down year, but when you look at the consistency of his career and the fact that he's only like 25 years old, he's been in this game for like 7 years now, and he's constantly being considered one of the top 5 players in the league. So I would say it's a surprise from a statistical analysis, but when you look at the overall picture of merchandise sales, of location, of where the All-Star game is, it's not too big of a surprise for me. But I'm still going with Rendon as my snub. I think he's phenomenal. Just because he was out 3 weeks doesn't mean that he shouldn't have a chance at least to make the All-Star.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Derek?
All right. So even though, since Blake Snell is off the table, and since he's also the obvious name, basically, I'm going to actually go with Eddie Rosario from Minnesota. I know that's not exactly a big name. Minnesota's not a big market as far as baseball is concerned. But when you look at this Twins roster, I think Rosario has been the better player. I think out of all the guys who were in the final vote, no offense to Jean Segura, but I think that if I were to select someone and my vote was the only one that mattered, I would pick Eddie Rosario to be an All-Star because he deserves it. He's had one of the best years of any Minnesota player. He's been one of the driving forces of this Twins team. And the Twins rebuild has been getting better. It's ahead of schedule, and I think Rosario has been a big part of it, which is great given that Byron Buxton isn't really playing since I think he got injured, and even then he's been a little inconsistent before then. The pitching, even though Jose Barrios is good, they have guys in the pipeline, it still hasn't been up to standard, at least not yet. And all other players like Eduardo Escobar, Brian Dozier, they've still been playing well, but I think out of everyone, Eddie Rosario was the most deserving to be Minnesota's representative as far as this All-Star game is concerned. Now, as far as the surprise goes, J.A. Happ, 100%. I mean, if you look at J.A. Happ's numbers, even the pitchers who probably shouldn't be in it, Barrios, I mentioned, probably shouldn't be in, at least if we're going off the whole every team needs a representative rule. I don't think Joe Jimenez from Detroit should be in. I'm not sure about Felipe Vasquez either from Pittsburgh, since I think there were better players. But J.A. Happ, even though Toronto isn't having the best year necessarily, you could find someone better than J.A. Happ. I mean, 4.5 ERA, all the pitching numbers aren't against him. Those are not even close to All-Star numbers. And the fact that he somehow made it is just absolutely ridiculous. And it looks bad on this whole every team needs a representative rule. It means that, like, I'm not sure, obviously, if changes had to be made so that way the best players get in and then we can figure everything out from there. I don't know, but when you have someone like J.A. Happ who really shouldn't be an All-Star making it to the All-Star game, that's just egregious to to me,
Yeah.
to be honest. And as far as like an honorable mention goes, I'm going to go Salvador Perez. Again, same reason. Numbers aren't up to standard, and Kansas City has better representatives.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Duncan,
Okay.
sauce boss?
All right, my snub is Charlie Morton, Houston Astros. He had an 11-2 record, an ERA under 3, had over 150 strikeouts, and I was very shocked that he did not make it initially. I mean, they had to additionally add him and Snell to the All-Star Game roster later, but I was surprised that neither one of those guys were picked before. And Charlie Morton's been very under the radar because of how good Houston's pitching staff is. We know Garrett Cole's good. We know Justin Verlander's really good. But Morton slipped under the radar. He's actually been Houston's most consistent pitcher this whole season and not getting enough respect. So he was my biggest snub initially. My biggest surprise is Joey Votto, Cincinnati, because he has less than 10 home runs this year. And there are a lot of first basemen in the National League that were better than Joey Votto. I think they could have gone a better route there with him instead. So I'm not feeling the Joey Votto selection. I would have had Jesus Aguilar over him all day.
Yeah, like Jesus Aguilar should not have been a final vote.
Yeah.
He made it. That's great, but he really shouldn't have even been that far. He's been amazing this year.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Duncan?
All right, Duncan?
Oh, hey there.
Oh, boy.
He's cutting out.
There we go.
Sound.
Can you
okay.
guys hear me now?
Yeah, you're
So,
good.
as far as my surprises, one of it's going to have to be probably a little bit of a bias, but thank the baseball gods that Molina was able to get in because of injuries. The guy that I always like to see. But honestly, what I was really surprised when I looked at it was how bad the pool was just for as far as the AL first base in general. I mean, Jose Abreu, I know he had a good start to the season, but he's got a 255 average. He's had a terrible slump. He got the benefit of the doubt of there not being very many good selections out of the AL as far as for the first base position. But as far as my snubs, I don't get why we had to have an injury for Jeremy Jeffries to be able to make the All-Star game. We're talking about a pitcher who, was leading as far as the NL with the ERA of 1.07, so just over 1 ERA. He had a great season going all together, but also on top of that, since he technically got on because of injuries, I wanted to throw on the Rockies' Adam Ottavino. Leading the AL as far as ERA for your relievers. He's got a 3-to-1 ratio as far as strikeouts to hits. It kind of goes to show that really sometimes making the All-Star game, one, has to be because you're in a big market, and two, because of your popularity, not just because of you being at an All-Star caliber like this current year.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, relievers don't get a lot of love.
Yeah.
Not at all.
All-Star
I'm
voting,
just glad
so.
Josh Hader made it. He deserves that.
Yeah.
He's been Milwaukee's best reliever this whole year. I was expecting him to honestly be the big snub, honestly. So I'm just glad he made it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did make it, yeah.
Hey, so before we wrap this up, there's one I kind of want to bring it to the NBA just real quick. So we all saw what happened with Isaiah Thomas, getting that 1-year, $2 million deal. And a lot of that, a lot of the justification for that is because of his injuries that he's had. And because of the injuries, we're not really sure how good he's going to be. But then all of a sudden today or yesterday, we see Jabari Parker getting a 2-year, $40 million deal for the Bulls. They're paying him $20 million a year.
Yeah.
This guy's had 2 ACL tears, and I see that contract as just a slap in the face to IT.
Yeah.
No one else could give him even $5 million a year to. This guy averaged
Nuggets
30
got
points a
steal.
game.
Nuggets got a steal. Let's be real.
Nuggets
have had probably the best offseason this year. Got the steal of the draft, possibly, and then they get a steal for except maybe the Warriors got the steal with Boogie Cousins for $5 million, but $2 million for this guy that averaged 30 points per game in the month of January 2017 or something. Like, that's outrageous. Like, this guy was an MVP candidate some point in 2017 a year ago when Russell Westbrook won, but yeah.
He's probably going to be your sixth man of the year. If not, he'll be in the running for sixth man of the year this year. That's where I'm going to put my money.
Yeah,
honestly.
Unless he starts. I mean, he might be able to start if his health is back.
Most improved player, I think. You know, I say he'll be most improved.
But what do you guys think about this Jabari Parker contract?
I do not like it. Anthony Jones made a video today about it, and he likes it. I just don't like it because we see the talent level. I think his rookie year or something, he averaged 20 points per game or something. So he has a lot of potential, but when you have 2 ACL injuries in your career, it's hard to come back from it. And we haven't really seen him come back from it yet. So personally, I feel like you could have given him a 1 year, $10 million, $15 million deal, but 2 years for $40 million. Like, you're basically now relying that he'll be this superstar player that is going to happen most likely.
And beyond that, it's like his game doesn't fit the modern style of the NBA now, right? He's too slow. He doesn't really have a position. He's very ball dominant, and he's not the most efficient scorer. So, yeah, he averaged 20 points a game a couple of years ago, but
that was a couple years ago.
He's coming off 2 injuries, and he doesn't really fit this whole new style of the NBA that we're seeing. So for Chicago to give them that kind of money, I feel like it really binds them for the next couple of years of getting another free agent. You know, they had some extra money to try to allure a free agent. You know, they locked down Zach LaVine as one of their cornerstones, and you think that they're in the right, doing everything right for the rebuilding process, and then they make this signing that really could just backfire. So we really have to see what's going on. But when I saw that, I immediately thought, man, Isaiah Thomas must be pissed because no one was offering him money because of his injury. And here is this guy who has 2 torn ACLs and gets $20 million a year. So I just thought that was just a bitch slap to Isaiah's face. I mean, I thought that was
I kind of saw it as like looking at the organization too, because isn't the same team that offered Joakim Noah like all that money once the new TV deals went in, right?
I thought that was New York.
Yeah, that was New York.
Joakim Noah went from the Bulls to the Knicks.
Yeah. And the Knicks screwed this up because he's
Well, that was the year that the TV deal made everything insane, and all these players were getting ridiculous contracts. Like Timofey Mozgov got a huge contract. Luol Deng got a huge contract. Bismack Biyombo got a huge contract. Mahimi got a huge contract.
There it is.
And so that was a year where all these big men who are like 30 years old, 31, who play on the bench, like get
bums. If you ask Drunken Monkey, they're bums.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Ryan Hollins battle is hilarious. It's funny.
Oh man, that one crazy.
Man.
Yeah.
So,
all right, well, we're reaching on to an hour right now. You guys want to call it, or what are you thinking?
It's your call, guys.
Yeah, it's your call.
Yeah, I'm good. I know I'm having headset issues right now, so I'm having to do the whole mute and unmute thing since my headset's giving me problems. And I know homeboy down there is probably wanting to get some dinner now at this point. So
yeah, I was about to say I'll be eating some dinner now.
Yeah.
All right, well, so let's call it right now, and we'll have the challenge for next week, and we'll have that posted up on SportsMe and on the MegaCast page. So, we appreciate you guys coming on. It's always fun chatting with you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, man. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
And talk to you tomorrow, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see you guys on the chat.
Yeah, I'll see if I can
on SportsMe tomorrow, yeah.
We'll see.
All right, later, guys.
See ya.